Okay, good evening. We're going to call our special meeting to order. We have a quorum. Our first action will be pledge allegiance and moment of silence. So please stand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We don't have any special guests tonight, so we're going to go right to swearing in Erin Halsey for Board Seat 1 for her first 3-year term. So Erin, if you want to, we've done this before, but if you want to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Erin Halsey, hereby declare under oath that I will faithfully perform the duties of school board member of Oakdale School District to the best of my ability, and that I will faithfully discharge all of the duties pertaining to said office and obey the Constitution and laws of the United States and Oklahoma. Good job. Congrats. Here, I need to let you sign and date that. Okay, moving on to agenda number 5, consideration, discussion, and possible action upon reorganization of school board officers for the 2020-2021 school year. So in accordance with kind of how our board has set up in governance, we switch every year. So really, it's really a motion, and we've already put out where you're going to be. So just need a motion to specifically appoint each person, and then we'll vote.
Motion to switch positions.
Okay, there's been a motion for Jerome Lothridge to assume the presidency, Erin Halsey to assume the vice presidency, and for Todd Corbin to assume the clerkship position. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Mr. Lothridge, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you finish up the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin.
Yes, sir.
Thank you as well for your stalwart year as president during periods of significant transition and extraordinary leadership. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Mr. Clerk. Our next agenda item, item 6 on your agenda, is a review of the Return to Learn plan, the reopening plan commencing August 2020. Let me take the point of privilege and commend the administration for its exceptional work. I know firsthand Dr. Pierce, Mr. Franz, and many others, including our principals and our faculty and staff, have worked exceptionally hard, very thoughtfully, and with great wisdom in putting this together. That said, I believe that the community has had at least an opportunity to see a first draft pursuant to our last board meeting. And then as an attachment to this agenda that was published yesterday, we would have had at least an opportunity to take a first glance. That notwithstanding, Dr. Pierce, I would ask that we go through at least at a high level, and you share with us and with the public those points you think are most germane, the key takeaways that people should have, and then folks will be free to review this at their leisure.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You can see on the screen, it's also attached in your agenda packet, but the presentation that is out, there's just a general welcoming letter. I'm going to take my glasses are steamed up. There have been some slight changes since we showed this to you last. I will just hit those mainly. One of the things that we realized very quickly is there's no single plan that will completely eliminate the risk of COVID virus. But through a layered approach, much like you see the picture of the Swiss cheese, there may be holes in the plan, but when you stack layers upon layers, it does protect us in a significant way. It does reduce that risk. No plan is perfect, and I realize not everyone will be 100% pleased. Some will feel like we have not reached far enough. Some will feel like we have reached too far. But in looking at the risk factors and the feasibility, practicality of all these things, we took that into consideration. I took the liberty of giving you a quick review also of the parent survey results. This question was how the comfort level of people sending their kids back to school on August 13th. 77% gave ranked that a 4 or 5, so it's agree or strongly agree. Riding on a bus was slightly less, 63%, and participating in fine arts was higher, 74%. I think athletics was about the same, but athletics is also voluntary, so that's a little bit different type of response. When we proposed the different plans, a supermajority, 64% of the parents, 66% of the teachers preferred option A. So that is what we drafted, working around this. Basically, the reopening plan will be this one plan so that we can reopen school with bricks and mortar on the 13th as usual with added layers of protections. The 2 stars on here, the caveats is that we recognize that some students have pre-existing conditions, comorbidities, other things, family situations that may not make them feel as comfortable returning back to school at this time. So if that is the case, I'm requesting that they contact the building level principal so that we can talk about different choices and options, because we may be able to do some things that we can't do on a large scale, but maybe for some isolated instance, we may be able to take care of some of those things through distance learning. The other plans are contingency plans. You've seen these before. I did add in Plan C. There was a question that came up about instead of being 2 days on with one group and then 3 at home, what if we had a 4-day school week? Well, I think that really would be like a B.1 plan, because this scale basically considers incremental social distancing. So Plan B would be have some social distancing, C has more, but a 4-day week would fall somewhere in between those. So I think that's an option. So I think as we see what emerges in the data, that's not off the table, but it could be, it's kind of like a C, but with less social, more liberty with social distancing. And then Plan D is 100% distance learning. There is a virtual learning option that I find is something of interest. I've talked to several families this week concerned about their specific situation. And so we would like to offer a plan for every family, and we hope they would all come back with. This isn't necessarily a restaurant menu of choices based on our capacity and ability to offer certain things. We feel like another option that's only available to Oakdale families would be something that many people, or at least some people, would want to consider. Having conversations with district administrators at Edmond Schools reminded me that they have a district policy that allows any pre-K through 8th grader to transfer to Edmond Schools. They are offering a virtual school for all of their students, elementary through high school. So while we would love for all kids to come back here, we also know that parental choice is something that's, and there are some situations that are very serious. So I've talked to some parents about this opportunity, that should they choose to do that, we would love for them to come back when they're ready. However, this might be a viable choice. It's unique only to Oakdale families because they do not take other out-of-district transfers. And my understanding is that Edmond Schools does have certain parameters and deadlines for their students to enroll in virtual. However, communication today indicated that if a student were to be accepted on a transfer from Oakdale, when they went to enroll, they could then choose virtual. So I guess that was more of a way around saying those deadlines might be different for a new student coming into the district versus one of their current families. We have discussed this as well. We understand there's going to be some gaps that we need to attend to. The state, I think since we met last, did issue free to the districts. We did sign up for this, a plan from Edmentum, and it's a differentiated personalized pathway. They have benchmarks and they have diagnostics, and then they can also then tailor-make classroom activities and things that could be used during distance learning. So we took advantage of that. One of the things that we hear most about are these two things about taking temperatures and wearing masks. We do ask parents to pre-screen their children before heading off to school, that having long lines at the doors, having crowded lineups, delayed entry to school, all of those things make that not very practical for us. So we ask that parents do that before sending their children to school, which they should be doing to some degree anyway. So that's not a huge change. Masks, the general considerations are that we realize that for a lot of our children, they're young children, wearing a mask properly all day may not be feasible. We are going to suggest that wearing a face covering would be prioritized when it's difficult to maintain social distance. And I have examples there. We discussed, had a voluntary meeting the other day with social distancing, virtual option for teachers, and said as far as staff, we do recommend that they do wear a mask or some sort of covering. However, it's really at their discretion that we will provide those for them. The idea being that some grade levels, teachers may be able to social distance more from their students than, say, a pre-K or kindergarten teacher, so that we are telling them that we would totally respect that, and that if they want to wear it full-time, we would also respect that as well. Cleaning and sanitizing, I believe that's about the same as we had last time. We did order some additional electrostatic sanitizing sprayers, and we do have a quote for retrofitting nearly all of our water fountains with water bottle refill capabilities so that we can disable or at least shut off somehow the mouthpiece, and we'll just be able to switch over to many of the water bottle refill options. Our school nurse, Julie Harger, has come up with many plans. This reiterates those again. Some plans we realize also will be emerging, particularly about some of the new questions coming out about what are triggers to close school and things like that. I'll address that in a moment. She's prepared a flow chart so that we will go through. This is the same she saw last time. I've added this slide about closing school. We have a preliminary decision-making framework, however, it's very rudimentary. And so we know there are many challenges to create a plan this early, and guidance is still emergent. And so State Department of Education had a call yesterday, I believe, and they addressed this in part. And I believe it sounds like there'll be some level of guidance coming out from one of those organizations soon. We do realize that we have one thing really that's advantageous for Oakdale is our architectural plan for the building design for the school, is that we do have opportunities to have sections, classrooms, pods, grade levels, should they need to be quarantined or closed, that we wouldn't necessarily have to close the whole school. So I think we'll take this case by case and look at the data, reach out to the experts, and take their advice upon that. So there's no clear-cut answer on this. I've talked to heard other superintendents address this, and it's really new on their radar. So it's really emerging. About masks, this is what will go out to families. We're asking every child to have a clean face mask every day available to them, and it would be used in different situations. On the bus, yes, because physical distancing is not feasible on our buses. Now, if we had few students ride the bus and we could see students spread out more, we may modify that. But if it's full like it was when we left in March, it would be difficult to do. So windows would be open, ventilation, etc. In classrooms during instructional time, not mandatory, but recommended if physical distancing is not feasible. Again, we don't want masks to be a distraction, that we want teachers and we want students to be able to comply with this teacher's directives. Should, for example, I used the example the other day, if we were to have a tornado drill and go to the auxiliary gym, we could not social distance in there, the whole school in there. It would be, so having a mask available at those times where we can't social distance, that would be appropriate. And then for the teachers to be able to have discernment when they would need to do that. Again, parents wanting their children to wear masks more often would be fully supported, as well as teachers. And then students would then have to be responsible for wearing their mask if the parents said I wanted to wear it 100% of the time. We want the students to be responsible for following their parents' directives. And then common spaces, outdoor spaces during non-instructional time. If, again, the physical distancing is not feasible, like if we're in line for a bus or we're in line for a parent pickup or something like that, possibly, but during recesses, we can physical distance. So we wouldn't require those at recess. There's a slide about that too, that has not changed. This is the same as last time, entry to school. Adults, employees, and visitors will be screened when they arrive in the building. They'll have a checkpoint. They'll be asked to wear masks. In classrooms, we're really leaving this up to the teachers. This is the same as last time, but we're asking the teachers to, because each of their classrooms is slightly different, so they will come up with procedures in their classrooms specifically to their classroom that works for them, but they will be sanitized. Our specialist teachers will have their own protocols as well. We'll mark the hallways. We're also, a new thing that we kind of came across was, we have amplification systems. Red Cat, Lightspeed, for, think of surround sound for a classroom, a small microphone that the teacher could wear, so that if she is wearing a mask or if there's a problem with being able to hear instruction, we could implement those as well. Cafeteria, I believe, is the same, social distancing, et cetera. Outdoor recesses, same there.
Hey, could you go back one, Dr. Pierce? I just caught a glimpse of that. I think no guests or visitors may join children for lunch at this time. Are parents aware of that? That's a big change.
Well, there will be a parent letter that goes out to families after next Tuesday evening, probably Wednesday morning. I have outlined these in a 2-page front back letter that will go to families.
Okay.
I may send out the slideshow as well, so it would be up to them to be able to, it would be disclosed in those 2 avenues.
Got it, okay.
And no lunch buddies either.
I'm sorry, what?
No lunch buddies either. That's a volunteer program that used to.
No, and
Yeah.
actually that's really not a COVID-related decision. That was in speaking with the PTC. I think they were having difficulty finding the volunteers to staff that on a regular basis. So I've asked, myself included, all administrators to be on duty during all the lunches. That will take turns at different lunches as well as a teacher. So it's not just the teachers on, well, we're going to do what we ask them teachers to do. We'll be in there with them as well. So we'll have extra manpower in there. After school dismissal, this is a new slide, but that came up from a teacher meeting. We will ask students to wear masks when they're walking to the bus, exiting school, waiting for a line. I mentioned it already, particularly when social distancing is not capable. Athletics, events, clubs, we do want to continue those as much as possible. We realize that participation in many of those activities is voluntary. We want parents to understand the risks. So I've asked the administrators to develop a list of all of our activities that are extracurricular and try to define the risk factor that might be associated with that activity. Based on things that I've heard in discussions with Dr. Wendelbo, for example, band or choir might have a different risk factor than if we were to have a chess club or something like that, So we'll try to get that out so parents are informed to make an informed decision. This is new, Information Day, and the next slide, day 1, first day of school. This is something that got into the weeds very quickly. We asked the teachers if they had ideas. They formed some committees. They've met a couple of times. For Information Day, it will be virtual only. We're going to allow parents, many of them are ordering their supplies online, will be delivered here. However, those that wish to purchase them themselves, we'll have an opportunity for them to drop those off early. We'll label those, we will deliver those to the classrooms for them. So that's not an issue on day 1 or on Information Day. The teacher planning committee was created, and they have some very motivating, interesting, fun ways that they can introduce the child themselves to their new students to make it exciting, a reveal or some sort of, it'll be virtual, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I think it's like one of those things like when we had the 8th grade parade through the neighborhoods, some people said, I kind of like this. I'm hoping that this is kind of like, that Information Day was good, but this is really fun. First day of school, similarly. Principals of the meeting with teachers. We are asking parents and guests not to come into the building the first day of school, and I know that will be a big gasp for many parents, but we are working on some special photographic opportunities before the first day of school here on our property. So if they want to take the pictures and do all that, they can stage that ahead of time. We're planning a very fun event on the first day of school that we may hold outside on the field, on the track, and make it really, really fun and extra special for them for the way to start their first day in class. So we're looking forward to that. I think it'll be a fun way of starting school. And the next to last slide, I think, was about calendar changes. The student dates this will be voted on next week, but the So you see the circle dates. The first circle date in August are 2 additional contract days for teachers so that we can do some more training, say with Google Classrooms and other things that we need to do. One of the things that also sidebar, I found a free hosted website to where we can do all of our compliance training. There's like 17 modules the State Department by law requires every teacher to do every year. For example, bloodborne pathogens, FERPA, all those things. I've located a system that teachers can do that virtually from anywhere. They just log in, if they watch videos, they take a little quiz, or they watch some slides, and they can do that. We're going to kick that off on August 1, teachers, maybe even sooner, so that by the end of August, they will have had that complete. And we don't have to take our time sitting and getting in the faculty meeting at the beginning of the school year. So that's a sidebar, but back to the dates, that's 2 additional dates on the calendar preparing for changes this year. I'll point you at the end of the year, paid day at the end of the year after students to do checkouts, to have maybe if we have people retiring or leaving us, we do some closure, have a farewell. We may have to update cumulative files, records. In the past, I think the teachers that was not a work day, but they were still here working. So I told them, I said, we might as well, you do the work, let's just put it on there that you're being paid to do that. The other thing is this October 20th. This would be the only change I think a family or student would notice. And that is making October 20th, the day after fall break, be a parent-teacher conference day, a contracted work day for teachers with no students in the building. That does not mean that we have to forego offering evening conferences. That was in the past, you had 2 evenings that teachers would work all day and they would stay here in the evenings. Because we're having a nighttime crew for custodial and cleaning and sanitizing, we need that time to clean the rooms for the school the next day. So we cannot do evening conferences like that. However, I did tell the teachers that on the 20th, I am very supportive. I think it's ideal for them to develop their own schedule and we could have a very flexible work day. It could be 10 to 6, 11 to 7, 9 to, whatever works for their team or their families. I would probably imagine that many of those conferences may be virtual as well. I don't know for sure, but that's to be determined. But it's a paid day, no students here, and then the teachers, I would probably make a deadline and say, there's some families that can't do a conference on the 20th. Let's try to get those corralled by the 30th, a phone call, an email, something that we're communicating progress to families. So that brings us to the formula is 170 days taught with kids. We can count the 2 parent-teacher conference days in our formula for the State Department accreditation, plus the 8 contracted work days, which could be professional development, whatever else we book on that day, for a total of 180 for teachers. And that brings us to about 1161 hours in a year, which means it exceeds the 1080 requirement by 80 hours. So I noticed Edmond went back, they added a couple of snow days in their calendar this year. I believe they're going from hours to days. And I don't foresee that need for us, because I think with the additional hours, if we had an inclement weather day and we had to close school, we are still meeting, we have plenty of hours in the bank based on that. So I think we're in good shape on that. And that concludes the brief update.
I got a question for you as a superintendent of schools. Do you think at some point the state would say, hey, we're going to shut down school? They would force us to shut the school down statewide. I mean, are we anticipating that?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it either. The general sense that I get from the calls that I've sat in on, virtual calls, is that this would be more of a local decision, school board level, district level decision.
Okay.
Now, I don't think it's off the table. I mean, they've done it before. So if something was to be real severe, I think they still have that capability, but I don't think that is I'm not any indication that would be true.
Okay. That's, you plugged in more than we are.
I've asked certain individuals in kind of positions of influence in that specific regard at the state level, and I think that would be nothing on our current trajectory or anything that would be incremental to it would lead to that. It would have to be something very catastrophic, and on top of that, I don't think there would be anything statewide. So you might, for instance, heaven forbid, get an outbreak in Tulsa, which might impact the state's directive to Tulsa and its environs, but nothing that would impact statewide. I think that would be very, very far-reaching, given the conversations on that.
Sidebar, additional one, is that at our, in the next meeting or two, sometime before school starts, there are a couple policies that I will need to bring to you. And indirectly related to that, for example, distance learning, we need to have a policy that indicates that how we count attendance for distance learning days. There's some other things too that we don't have our board policy book updated yet, and so I know we'll have a handful of those to bring to you, probably a quick vote, very reasonable policies. I've read them, but we still haven't had time to get an answer yet. They're not complete.
Dr. Pierce, again, I'm gonna demask for a second to make a couple of points of emphasis. One, again, to thank you to the team. There's a ton of work that went into this, and it was highly collaborative, and you drew upon the expertise that we're fortunate to have in our district, so thank you. If I could just reiterate, principally for the listening public, just the three key takeaways that I think land on parents most directly, and you guys obviously feel free to weigh in as well, but it seems there are three things that have asked, and I'm sure we all have been, three things I would want to emphasize that are key to the plan. One, we'll have school, and we'll have school physically here on the normal calendar, which juxtaposes with some other districts who are offering kind of a menu of options. We will have contingencies for those individuals who are at higher risk, who may have comorbidities, et cetera. But in the main, we will open for school in this building according to our normal schedule. I think that's a key question. One. Number two, the notion of screening kids, most particularly for symptoms and for temperature, will be done at home. So this is a personal responsibility that we're not going to engage at school. And so that's one of those things I think the parents will be very keen to understand how is this going to happen. And we're leaving that what seems to be an appropriate place, which is in the home, but that's going to be an expectation that parents will deliver a child who has been screened and is as far as they can tell, ready to come to work. And then three, on the issue of masks, we're going to provide for every student, every day, a mask. The plan stipulates at what points we're going to ask the students engage them. Similarly for teachers, we're going to encourage that. I assume we'll also provide for teachers
If they wish.
if they wish. And probably fairly importantly, we won't this isn't in the plan, but we won't dissuade anyone, or there'll be no mask shaving or anything like that. That's one of those social phenomena now, unfortunate but true. But relative to masking, we won't have a requirement for the students. And that differs even from the upper school, the high school at Edmond. So I know that Edmond High and Memorial and Santa Fe North are requiring, given our circumstances, that's the difference here. But again, for parents who are curious, are we going to require masks all the time for students during instructional times? That's a no. So those are kind of the three big things that I think from a parental standpoint, I've heard the most questions about. Again, there's scats more about the plan than those, but I think those are the things I just want to emphasize for folks who listen.
I would clarify, I think you said that we will have a supply of masks, disposable type, if a student did not have one, but I believe they may be on the school supply list. I believe PTC was actually going to have an online spirit store, maybe doing some personal imprinted logo type things for Oakdale to make it fun, that they get maybe a buzz or a mask, or so there are options for that.
Okay. From other board members, any other kind of questions or points that we want to make sure we emphasize? Again, this is very dynamic. The fact that we have options B, C, and D does not reflect that we're giving a choice to parents. It shows our contingency planning should we have something happen in our community that warrants our moving to a different level. Because it's very similar to what was rolled out at the state, even today on color coding. For colors, this is very similar. I think reflects the best practices. Again, exceptional work on this, and I guess procedurally, this is in the public domain by virtue of being attached to this.
Right.
What's the plan now going forward, if you just reiterate before communicating this out to our community?
The plan would be that we would bring this back Tuesday next week for you to affirm it. This gives the public time for feedback, input, questions. Then we can bring this up one more time. And if you affirm that, it would go out in the board highlights newsletter as well as on our website. We would send a text message out reminding how to find the newsletter, the board highlights from me. So it will be out at that time in those ways.
Okay. And I think it'd be appropriate for us to have a board resolution that we vote on affirming that on Tuesday night.
Just approve the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and, we still have a month before school starts. And so if there are changes that need to be made, we can make those, so, correct?
Right.
If we get new information or,
Right.
because everything's unknown.
It's a moving target.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on this very important number 6? Okay, again, thanks and kudos, Dr. Pierce, to you and the team.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7. So part of what brought us here was the notion that the board, in lockstep with our new superintendent, felt it was a fantastic time for us to start to engage some questions that look around the corner, that think about strategy, where do we aim to be in light of our growth, in light of our aspirations. Many of the discussions we had with you, Dr. Pierce, during the interview and selection process, I think it's a great time. It falls at an unusual time since we also have to schedule a global pandemic. Nonetheless, I think, I think people like us ought to be able to do more than one thing at a time, even including a pandemic. So thus I suggest we go ahead and begin what will be multiple iterations, I believe, of thinking ahead of what generally would be work sessions that are on future projects as we set initiatives in the strategic planning process. So Dr. Pierce, I'll let you walk us through what you have prepared, and we will let this begin the first of what I'm sure are going to be a number of conversations, including some other special sessions some of which we have on the schedule now, some of which will be scheduled in the future. So if you would like to initiate the discussion, we're ready to go.
Yes, that's the purpose of this work session, is for us to be able to dream big and to look into the future. And there are several things, like you said, during the interview and selection process, the questions that come up, even recent, just out in the community. I get questions all the time about certain topics. So it's wise for us to go ahead and plan ahead for those things, just address those. And so that's the purpose of establishing a series of work sessions. Some boards call those retreats, even though they're in a meeting in a situation like this. So feel yourself retreated, I guess. But this work session is a way for you to begin additional goal setting, looking at programs, initiatives, so that we can be poised to look to the future with a lot of intensity. So I'll really turn this over to Mr. Corbin. He kind of took the lead on trying to establish a framework for that. We talked quite a bit about this, but he has kind of put it into a graphic for you. And so there's some topics and some lanes, so to speak, where we can set some priorities and move forward.
Okay. Hey, I guess my first question is, can we fire that computer up to put this up there, or because so Mike can see this, or?
Who do you want to view this? Do you want to be able us to see it on the screen?
Yeah,
I believe I have your email from earlier in the day and I can cast it.
it's, okay.
That's doing the live stream.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
I can do that.
Well, we can refer to this. I got a copy here, it's not. That's not colored. It's not doing it? No, yeah, he's gonna fire it up on that lecture. So, let me go over why I did what I did, and then I think that will kickstart us just starting to fire out questions, because I think really at the end of the day here is for us to take the next 37 and a half minutes to just kind of brainstorm some ideas, because we got to start broad and work our way down to the funnel. I mean, really, I guess that's what we're trying. So the strategic planning process, I mean, I shot from the hip. I've been taught you start with a vision, you have a mission. I don't know that now that we even want to, do we want to start at the top? We've got a mission statement, we have a vision statement for the district. But I think with a new superintendent of schools, fairly new board, maybe we want to relook at it. Are those words relevant? Because that vision and mission was created. There wasn't one person sitting at this table that was part of that discussion. That was 3 or 4 boards ago. So do we want to look, are those words relevant for us? Here we go. So that's the second slide. And then I went for the 5 W's, all right? Who, what, where, when, why, and how do we do it? The arrows, we go back and forth. Who do we want to be? I mean, who do we want to be as the Oakdale Rockets? What do we want our district to be? What is that path? We have to define the path. We have to figure out who we want to be. Where does it happen? Does it happen in this school? Does it happen over here in this new wing? Does it happen on another piece of property? I don't know those questions, but I think those are answers that we have to come up with over these work sessions. When do we execute? What's our time frame? Why are we doing it? The biggest question that I get from taxpayers in Oakdale with our situation of choice is, well, why do you want to do that? Well, it's easy for me to say after 6 years on the Board of Education, why? Because I think we can do it better than everybody else. I think we can deliver an educational product that can compete at the state and national level with any grade that we determine. And I don't know what that determination is. I think that's why we're going to get together and figure this out. And then my final bubble there is, how do we do it? How do we go about it? What does the process look like? And how do we communicate that process? That's strategic planning in a nutshell, Todd Corbin style. If we go to the next slide, this defines sort of our strategic plan. So now we've gone from this broad strategic view to a master planning view, which to me is at the operational level. Okay, this is the nuts and bolts. And our guides at the top, we have to define what our excellence is going to be based upon a changing mission or a vision. We have to do consensus building, because I think you have to have everybody pointing in the same direction, and you got to be rowing in the same direction. You got to be driving in the same direction. And we have got to do a better job of communicating that plan to everyone. Because not only do we have staff and faculty to be concerned with, we've got parents to be concerned with, students that are affected by this. The taxpayer that do not have students here anymore, the taxpayer that never has, they are going to support or not support us based upon the job that we do delivering what we want to do. And if it's not clear, it's very easy for them to say no on a capital improvement line project. And those things will be critical to get support. And I think if we lay out a very concise plan, people will say, you know what, they have really circled the wagons and gotten in the weeds and figured it out. Absolutely. So we've got our roof, we've got our first level of support, and then we have our stakeholders right in there. Then the superintendent evaluation objectives. Why did I put that in there? It is important to tie the superintendent's evaluation into the direction of our district, because one, we have to measure, are we doing what we said we were going to do? Is the superintendent doing what we hired the new superintendent to carry out? So I think along with the goals and objectives we set, we refine those to put in your evaluation piece. And that little blue piece is always going to be the executive session piece where we get together so that we can align district goals with the board superintendent evaluation goals. We have to consult subject matter experts. That's something we need to talk about tonight. We need to be able to get our capital bonding expert, Ron Fisher from McDonald and Associates, to come up. Things have changed now. Election dates have changed. We're out of windows. We just had a huge $2.5 million sinking fund bond payment. You know, our school village is dropping right now. I mean, it has dropped, but we need updated facts and numbers. And that will help us kind of figure out how much do we have short term to do now, and how can we plan future capital improvement projects succinctly and appropriately. We have our Board of Education leadership. That's not going to go away. The Board of Education will drive the whole thing, essentially. And then we need faculty, staff, parent, and community input. That is key. They are why we are here. We're here to represent the community as a whole. And we need to know where they stand. And we need to give them, we need to give them facts and figures so that they can make reasonable judgments, and we can make reasonable judgments to know what direction we need to go. And then I get back to a little more brick and mortar. And we break this down. I broke it down into short, near, and long term. We talked about this for a year of our superintendent search to all of our candidates. We talked about it, and Dr. Pearson and I have been talking about this in detail for, since March. A lot. He probably doesn't like me anymore. But I broke it down, and these 12 pillars are just things to spur thought and to provoke discussion. They are not the end all be all. These are things that I think that are relevant that we've spoken of in the past. But what we want to do, and what I think as a board we need to do as a leadership group, is to really start throwing things on that whiteboard and saying, hey, what about this? What about this? So short term, obviously, this pandemic has changed the way we're going to deliver education for the next school year. And it may change beyond this school year. So it's important that we get that right. And it's important that we stay flexible because it's going to change. We have talked about salary schedule, our faculty salary schedule. I think that it's important that we look to get what we're going to need long term. I think we need to make an investment in what we have in front of us today. And to me, we need to make an investment in our teachers because we want the best and the brightest. And to do that, we need to really drill down and determine what that investment's going to be. And that's something that we need to talk about because I think your people are your most important asset to a district. And I think it starts there. And then we bring in our goals, and we bring in our sort of future vision, and we build upon the people that we have. And I think by improving salary schedule, we're going to maintain our best, and we're going to attract the best. And I think that's what we're going to need to go above and beyond where we are today. And I think that's our ultimate goal. I think when we get all done with this, is say, we're going to be the best in the country. We're not just going to be the best in the county or the state. I think that should be our goal. I think it should be crazy lofty. Bond issue. We know that we have some requirements from the city and the state right now to finish what we didn't finish with our last bond project at the building, just things that we ran into. We have to tease that out. And we've got to tease out the requirements and then what I call a direct student tease. I think it's hard to ask for the non-sexy items just for roads and fire suppression systems that we have to have, and not incorporate a direct link to, well, how is that bond benefiting my student directly in everyday student life? And I think we need to think about that. I think based upon the things we have to do, it's going to open up opportunities for some things that we can really improve upon. We may want to consider a facility review. What's our space utilization plan? We're moving a lot of people around this year. There are folks, The OSSBA is one of them. It's a new program they started. They're not the only show in town, but it may be something that we consider to have somebody, have a third party come in, look at our square footage, look at our acreage here, our landlocked acreage, and say, hey, if you move this here, this will open up here. And I think we need to be thinking about that. Relative to our future growth, relative to people moving into neighborhoods that are being established today, relative to maybe a change in our district status. And then we get to the near term. When we start figuring out this strategic focus and getting down into the details, it's time that we decide, are we going to stay a dependent school district? Are we going to consider being an independent school district offering a pre-K through 12 program? Are we going to have some board and say, we're going to consider a charter school that this board sponsors here in Oakdale for high school level students from the grades 9 through 12? It's a possibility. We've discussed it one-on-one. I mean, it is an opportunity. I mean, it allows for a different kind of financial arrangement because we have to be cognizant of the money that we take in. If we would go to an independent school district, one of the key factors for the state to approve that is, can you afford to do it? Can you afford the faculty? Can you afford the extracurricular activities that typically are expected from 9 through 12 school? So that's another avenue we can look at. We need to finalize a master plan. I mean, we're talking about it, but I think we really need to have a focused piece of paper that says, hey, this is sort of a roadmap. This is our guide. It's a flexible guide, but I think the community needs to see that we're thinking about that, and we can give them a roadmap to say, hey, we're starting here, we're going to end here, and this is how we're going to get there. These are the key points of time that we're going to need your support to make that end state happen. Then we get to long-term goals. We talked about curriculum. I mean, do we offer a different curriculum? I think always is sensitive, but we talked about that when we went through the hiring process, and I think it's a valid point for us to consider long-term. What kind of delivery method do we want to do here? Facility expansion, that may or may not happen. I don't know. I think the master plan and our strategic review in these work sessions was going to tease that out over time. Land purchases. Do we need more land to get to that facility improvement? I don't know the answer to that question, but I think we need to tease out what the opportunities are in the district so that we can prepare if we have to pay, prepare if those land areas meet the requirement that we need. And then finally, our capital bonding plan overall, beyond what is going to be coming up within the next, I think, 18 months, beyond 18 months. What does that look like? How much money can be allocated out of our $108 million ad valorem? Where do we stand on school millage as far as balancing that out so we don't have a roller coaster ride for a taxpayer? And how do we communicate to that to the taxpayer in a fundamental way? So that's the house in a nutshell. As far as, I think what we need to come up with here, Jerome and Aaron and Dr. Pierce, is, we have another meeting scheduled on July 30th, and then we meet again on August the 20th, I believe. How do you all see this coming together? I mean, we need to focus on what's next on the bond. That's a fact. We've got to tease that out. I'd like to talk a little bit about that in detail. I think that the salary schedule is something that, let's take a look at it. And then this whole master planning determination, what we want to do, how do we go about doing that? We need to throw out ideas about that tonight, and then maybe come up with a sort of a planned agenda on how to
how to tackle those in detail with these 2 other meetings that we have planned. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
I really like the consult subject matter experts,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like if we bring in someone possibly from OSSBA
Uh-huh.
to even help us
Yeah.
get our plans straight.
Yeah.
That they've done this several times with other schools.
Right.
Because I feel like we want to do this the right way
Mhm.
with experts like you have on your diagram there.
Yeah.
So I think we bring someone in as soon as possible to help us start this planning process.
Okay.
I agree.
I mean, the master planning process is daunting and it's expensive.
Mm.
One of my concerns is paying for it. And is it something that gets attached to, we focus on putting together this next bond? Because there are some known things that we need in this bond, for sure. There's no debating it. We have to have it. We've been mandated to put it in within a certain amount of time. Do you wrap the master planning cost into that bond as part of that? Because we're gonna have bonding capability in the multi-millions if we want it. I know that for a fact. I just don't know the exact number and how deep we wanna go. I think it's probably gonna be a good idea where we just take a meeting and focus on one thing at a time, because you can really get wrapped up in a lot of crazy details real fast. It's just throwing out ideas. I mean, I could sit here and talk about ideas for a bond for an hour about what I would think that the direction I think we need to go beyond building the damn road.
I like how you have this broken out. Maybe I suggest this, Todd, is that we have, if you look at our short-term goals, we have an upcoming first meeting that we agree we're gonna get, sort of stay in the room until we get through that.
Yeah,
The only caveat to that is the facility review.
yes,
Seems like we're gonna task, I mean, are we agreed, I mean, we may just go and take the action on it and go ahead and get that out of the way. If we're gonna engage an expert, can we not, if we agree that, we just say, let's get that rolling?
we can. I mean, if I'll go back to say, we'll have to make a choice. You know, do you want Sean Heim and Joe Ciano doing that for you? Do you want to go to our architect firm who has master planners inside there, not the architects? They've got master planning folks there, LWPB, and they could do that. I mean, it's a matter of cost, and it's a matter of who the board is comfortable with working with.
And that's kind of what I was driving at, was go ahead, because that is a process itself.
Yes,
A little different than, because Dr. Pierce, before we started your process, we decided, do we go outside or do we do OSSBA for our consultancy on that? That one's pretty easy. I don't know, this one may be a little more difficult to decide whether, I don't know, maybe OSSBA is the ones to do it, or maybe not.
You've worked with both of them, right?
yes, I have.
Yeah, so tell us your experience of working with both of them.
Wow. Well, it's different. Okay, I've never worked with OSSBA through their facility piece because it's new. It is a brand new service because they recognized it as a need, because we're not experts in planning schools. All right, we're on the Board of Education. Those folks are. I mean, they've been around the block a little bit and have done it. But I look at firms like LWPB and their institutional knowledge, their education, their training and background, that's what they do. Now, I think you pay, there's a cost for that. And that could be a differentiator on what you're comfortable with. If you ask me who I would rather have doing a master plan, I would tell you I would rather have an outside organization that's not a sort of lobby, you
And
know,
they're a neutral party.
yeah, that's what they do for a living. I
Yeah,
mean, the
that's-
USSBA is not in the business of doing facility master plans.
And they are Oklahoma, not to disparage, but if we have a national aspiration, I
Yes,
would want us to have a facilities group that has the same level of.
right. If I tell you I want, you know, I want to compete with the best school district in Massachusetts or Minnesota or Wisconsin or Virginia, the top 5 states of education. I mean, I want someone that can, their focus may not be more regional than national.
I do think if it's permissible, it strikes me as appropriate that we would have this bonded, that we would have that project,
Yeah.
the development of it as part of our bond funds, which would have the effect, I think, of allowing us to think not principally about price tag on that. We will always be judicious in spending taxpayer money,
Yes.
but that is such a broad and high dollar. We're putting a lot of dollars at risk. We ought to do it with the very best plan possible.
Absolutely, and without having specific details, because we pay a fee to be an OSSBA member, all right? I think it's like $2,600 a year. I don't know how much more that review costs to do that. There'll be a fee, but I don't think it'll be a fee that you're going to pay a 6-figure fee, I think, to go through a legit master planning, space utilization, you know, renderings, all that with a firm, a planning firm. I mean, based on my experience in the past with master planning. So I think we need to ask a couple questions. I need to find out how much it costs, find out what they deliver. And it could be something where you take what they have, the assessment they've done for, let's say, whatever it is, $1,000. I don't know if that is what it is. And you incorporate that into a legit master planning broad scope with a bond.
It would also be nice to have someone, if they already had experience taking a school from a pre-K through 8th grade to how to, you know, if that's the way the community wants to go.
Right.
How do we get there and successfully, and, I mean, for someone to have that knowledge and already worked with schools on doing that would be very beneficial too.
And that is a, you know, I got down here, one of my subject matter experts is the North Rock Creek Superintendent of Schools. All right, he's going through it. They've done the whole thing. They were pre-K through 8. Their circumstances are a little bit different than ours as far as, you know, what the community was 98%. I'm not sure we have 98%. I think that we are going to have to really tease out those options right there. Let the community see what that translates into cost as far as school millage tax. What kind of choice that leaves them. What kind of extracurricular, what kind of curriculum you're going to offer for a high school that's going to be, if we became a high school, you're looking at 1,000 to 1,100, you're going to be class 2A, roughly, I think.
Yes.
So you're going to be comparable to Crossings Christian, Millwood, Jones, Bay. I mean, all these little rural schools that have about 400, you know, kids in high school. But that takes time because there's a recruiting class every year, and it takes 4 years to build a high school. I'm just confused how to get to that, to get to those options without really going through a thorough sort of some review to tease those things out. And be able to speak based upon fact and not, well, this is what I think.
For sure.
Well, and part of what's hard for people, even for me to imagine, is when I think about, and I'm going to push this in near term goal, I'd love to push this out, Todd, but the consideration, I also like how you mask dependent, but that's high school, that's the high school discussion, I like how you mask it.
Right, exactly,
Wait,
right.
where's the high school discussion? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the high school discussion is dependent, independent charter.
Yeah.
That's just,
That's just euphemism, I like it.
that's crazy talk there. Yeah.
So, but I think even for me to imagine what it looks like, I mean, it does matter if you know, if I'm like if I'm representing a lot of people, I'm like, oh, the high school's just right there.
Right,
It's just a continuation, but if you said the only place that we could physically put a high school is over by the Waffle House or
right,
whatever iteration, it may, I mean, we're gonna have people thinking about as clearly as possible what we're talking about
right.
with the high school. And in that respect, it seems like having some notion of physical, what it looks like is just inextricably linked with how people imagine it.
At 1,000%.
Because normally I would say, we don't start anything on facility type stuff until you decide if you want high school. I don't know if that's not actually true, because where it is and what it looks, I mean.
There has to be a concept.
Yeah.
And to get a concept, you have to have a plan. And to have a plan, you have to hire a consultant to come in and kind of tell you, hey, this is what it's gonna take.
And this is what it's gonna cost.
And this is what it's gonna cost. And then that's where I get back to, I would be more comfortable having a firm that's their wheelhouse to be able to do that. But that is, I mean, this, you know, that is mass, but this is the first time that the Oakdale Board of Education ever has talked about officially being on an agenda item with master planning, has talked about consider a high school. Well, we're not considering a high school. We want to present options to the community saying, hey, here are your options. Tell us what you think. But it's going to take what you said to tease that out.
I agree, good discussion. It looks to me like under these blue pillars here, probably number one's in the works.
Yes, absolutely.
Number two, we've had some casual conversation. We have the numbers. It's just a matter of talking to our treasurer.
We can decide.
We can.
We can decide that. Yes, that's good. Yes.
To me, the other two.
Yes.
Yeah, the other two outliers, the bond issue, sounds like we need to get Ron in here. And
Yes.
just tell us what's our next step. And I would think in the facility review, it would almost be interesting. I don't know what products OSBA does when they have a review. I don't know. I've never seen what they do on that. It might be good. to
It's
have-
brand new. It's within the last year they started.
So not only cost, but what do we get? What's it look like?
Mhm.
It'd be good to have someone come tell us.
So here's
Or
what
an architecture firm.
Here's what I suggest we do then for July 30th. I mean, that's 2 full weeks. Do out, what does OSBA offer? What do you get? How much does it cost? Two, get Ron Fisher from McDonald and Associates to come here and update us on where we stand on school millage. What's our growth? What's the growth rate trending right now? Because it was down last year. What are we trending today?
We can get Steve in here for that too.
And we can get Steve here, because Steve needs to be here, because we need to ask him some pretty pertinent questions on that, along with the salary schedule.
I did visit with Steve today briefly and told him that probably Tuesday night, this next meeting, he might come prepared for possible questions.
Okay.
So he can go ahead and present that.
We may be able to start firing that out
On the teacher salary.
on the teacher salary part right now.
Right.
I mean, so that, and then we focus solely on what the OSBA can offer. The third thing is I'll talk to LWPB. They may give me a recommendation, say, this is who you need to go talk to. Yeah, that could be a Google search on, school master planners. I mean, you never know, they'll come anywhere to do it. To say, hey, this is what we're going to try to tackle. I'll talk to, North Creek Sioux. Say, hey, did you guys use a master planner? I don't know whether they did or didn't. I have no clue. However, we do have, and it's in your office, Mr. France, because I finally went through it when you were, where's that
Big binder.
Where's that big binder? So there is a State Department of Education binder that we have everything that North Rock Creek submitted to the State Department. And we've got a lot of data in there already because, Mr. Lanier had been working on that slowly over time, just on his own and with some of the staff, just kind of, him brainstorming, but it never got serious. But it's in there, and that's a guide that we can use. It's actually it's robust. It would be something that if we went the high school independent school district route, we'd have to do. The charter route, well, we hired a subject matter expert on that. He's sitting right there. But there are a lot of unique financial things that could offer. It doesn't necessarily protect you from annexation and consolidation. However, everybody will say, well, you want to be a high school to protect your district. I want to be a high school to make the best damn high school in the state of Oklahoma. I want to be Harding Prep. I want parents to say, I'm not sending them to Heritage Hall or Cassidy, I'm sending them to Oakdale. We can do that. I believe that. I really do. So bond issue, do we want to get into the nuts and bolts of that?
Not without our subject matter.
Yeah.
But I want to pretty quickly, is it reasonable that we would, so if you say of those first 4 short-term goals,
Yeah,
how we use the next 2, we have our regular scheduled meeting next Tuesday, and we have.
which will take care of salary. Good.
We could take care of the first 2, we could reasonably take care of the first 2 next Tuesday, COVID-19 plan and salary.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes.
And then focus on the 30th, get him in along with Steve and really hammer on the bond.
Yes.
Is that reasonable to do on the 30th?
If we do that on the 30th of July, here's the thing. We have got to have Randy Brooks here, or their LWPV. And that's a whole nother discussion. We got a new sheriff in town. We're not beholden to use the same folks, the same group that we've always used. I've got a great relationship with them. You've never worked with them before. But at the end of the day, Dr. Pierce, you are going to be the point of contact. You are going to ask Mr. Franz, right?
Ask Mr. Franz what?
Well, you're going, look at how much dealing with the architects you did finishing the last 25% of that building.
A lot.
It was intense, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It will be intense. You have to work with people that you're comfortable with. Not who I'm comfortable with, who you're comfortable with. And I don't know if that is that group, but I do know to get to this next bond that we are required, we're going to have to do these things. Those guys need to be here at least for the planning piece because they have institutional knowledge that we need to put in the road and the FPS. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And again, it's you all's decision which group you use to get that advice from. But I would suggest that consider someone who maybe has some history and some knowledge about what's been done up to this point with these buildings. That could be one factor to consider, not the only one.
But it weighs a lot. And then when we start talking bond, well, we know we're building a loop road. We know we are going to have an incredible, this is just me talking because I got it right here. And we can look at this. This is my little schematic that I've always used. This is where the original building was going
we go. We mapped that out, we mapped this out, we mapped this out. It didn't work, right? For various reasons. I'll get my little acetate out here. And I draw in the loop road, all right, and I think, okay, there's a lot of dirt that has to be moved. And one of the biggest complaints that we have is that playground activity area. And I've got a slide that, it's on that computer though, it's not on our, I didn't send it to you. But it can show you what we could probably do to make this an incredible recreation activity physical ed area. And keep the traffic to the periphery. It's fenced in, it's raised up. There's a 30 by 30 turf field out there that, you know, the middle schoolers will play football and play soccer on. You can have an elementary all-in playground area. You can have a middle school gaga pit and, you know, a sports court. And you should see what some of these schools are doing. I don't know why they're not doing that. But I'll send you the email. I'll send you the email. You can send it out. But you can see examples of what they're doing. It's incredible. They can be fenced in. The faculty wants it fenced in. We only have to be 200 foot for, you know, fire access. I learned that on that building. So we're good on the road. The road can be to the periphery. But we have to have the architects here to be able to plan drainage. It's got to move water. We got to raise it up. But there is a lot of room. If you look out here and you take out this road right here and you push it back, all right, you've got a ton of room here to there. There's a lot of recreational area that you can put in there. Now, when I go to the taxpayer and I have some sexy pictures and some concepts of some really cool outdoor activity areas that have these cool screens up on top. We rip down those crappy trees that break down and we plant in some cool landscaping and we use sunshades. It's unbelievable what some of these schools are doing. And I think we're missing the mail out there. And I think we have an opportunity right now with not hauling dirt to push our dirt, raise this area up, make it flat, and make it a really attractive outdoor recreation area. It's one option. It may not be what we go with, but I think there's an opportunity there. And I think that sells. And I think it's a need. I think it's a need. I really do. But there's a million things we can talk about. Demoing and moving things here. But then that gets into what you were talking about, Jerome, that whole facility review and, you know, having somebody else come in and say, well, this doesn't make sense. Should we allocate this money for this?
There's kind of, I guess I may say, Todd, in response to that's great. We really have two facility type reviews. One, the current physical plan.
Yes.
It's going to be K through 8, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so maybe that's the way we approach that, and that can help me get my head around a little better. Is we have a K through 8 facility review, which does all those things we just talked about.
Right.
And then you have the dream forward in the independent and independent. And this may be, maybe this is it. Those may be two different experts. So OSSBA may do the existing.
What we need
plan.
today,
Yeah.
short term.
And then you have someone outside, like whomever,
To give us option A, B, C, or course of action A, 1, 2, 3.
for building what we don't have.
Yes.
Maybe that's it.
No, I like it, because
Yeah.
I can't wrap my brain around segmenting the plan, coming up with the overall overarching strategic plan, but being able to execute things now, because we need now.
And the benefit we have is we know high school isn't going to be on this property. It won't fit, right?
Well, no, it could fit here, but something else may go away
Yeah.
to somewhere else.
But at any rate, it would be a discrete project.
Yes,
Maybe we think about that.
I like that idea. See, this is why we gotta talk this out. What, I mean, what, so, I'm gonna write these things down, right? I'll forget. So we're gonna knock out salary. And are we gonna do bond issue on, we're gonna do COVID and salary on Tuesday at our regular board meeting. we'll do a special board meeting that's already planned for the 30th and do bond issue. That being said, we'll have to have Randy Brooks representing LWPB here. So we need to let them know so they can get it on the calendar. But for the 30th, I just don't think that we can have a legitimate conversation without him being here, because they need to know what we're thinking so they can put it down on paper and say, you can't do that. You're out of
Again,
your mind.
that's what this, that's what K through 8.
That's what the K through, this is all, we are not on the, we're not on the near term.
Because that's, yeah, that's the, I think that's the most
I
pressing.
like this. These are the knowns.
Yeah.
Knowns, unknowns. And then with this bond issue, you may, I really think that we can put money into that
Figure out.
verbiage to say, hey, we're gonna take your idea, now we're gonna hire an outside consultant, come in to do a legitimate master plan, come up with all these courses of action for each one of those near-term goals, and then it all gets put together long-term. After we've gone through and, gotten community, part of that master planning, that is community input. They will go to the community, there will be meetings. They drive that, they're the facilitator. We're just kind of the tag along and the payer. I like that. I think it's smart.
It's a big decision.
Yeah.
It's huge.
You can't do it like.
No. Okay. What do you think?
I think that's a good plan from my angle. No, I do think getting experts in their field to come in and give as much advice as possible is wise. And getting input from the community, I'm trying to get everything in the same direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I really like your idea that you were throwing out about the outdoor.
I've got some great pictures of it. It's awesome. I mean, the things you can do, that's cool. It really is. But I don't know, a D6 can do anything, okay? Seriously. But I mean, you have to do it correctly. I mean, and it would change this whole back area. You gotta consider parking, you gotta consider the reason why you need to consider, this building, the building expansion at some point. Do we need it? But to me, that building expansion over there gets thrown into the master planning process for the near term space needs.
I agree. I like it.
Okay. Like, I don't have anything else to add on that.
Good. Thanks for the work on that.
Good job.
Good thought leadership.
But I mean, that comes with, not because I'm some guru, it's just things that steadily happen over time here, that you're trying to, capture what you can do today. What makes sense.
Tells me the last 4 or 5 years wasn't wasted.
Yeah, perfect.
Very well. And Dr. Pierce, you have our takeaways and those invitees we need for next Tuesday and the 30th. Pursuant to what we just talked about. Okay, yeah. Todd, thank you. That was cracking good work. Feel good about where we're headed on that. Okay, any other, that was a time very well spent. Anything else we need to, mainly to calendar or table relative to this? We know what's coming up, all of us now on next Tuesday, the 30th. Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll wait to do what we need to do on the 30th after we get through the next couple of meetings.
Okay, well, that takes us through agenda item number 7. I think the last thing we have to attend to is an adjournment, unless there are any other items, board members, that you need to bring out.
I move to adjourn.
Second. So recognized. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Marlene will adjourn at 7:19, please.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
It feels good. I tell you what, it feels good. It feels relaxed talking about it.